From the flight deck of the astral plane, this is your Captain Starpilot33, checking in with flight log number 6. Captain's turned on the fasten seatbelt sign since the ride ahead will be a bit bumpier. We have some weather up ahead, and I'm sure you've seen the clouds and the lightning. We'll be looking for a way to either climb over it or deviate around it, but once we're past it, there's smooth sailing ahead, and the weather's good at your destination. So keep your seatbelts fastened, your tray tables in their upright and locked position, and we'll keep you updated as we get closer. It's been a while since I had a journey. Over 4 months, in fact. But I have good excuses for why. First, I was cooking up a fresh batch of magical tickets to space, something I have not done since my first original grow in 2013. Part of the reason I did it was to see if I could duplicate the results I had the first time, so I could better answer some of your questions. I never wrote any of it down the first time, and basically I just patched together several texts from Shroomery and tried my best to remember a method that a friend once used. After several months, the results were in and very impressive, so this trip was to test fly these new ones and compare them to the others that I have, which are still very impressive even after all these years. The other delay was because of co-pilot Cat. As you know, he's my partner on these trips, and this year he and I became good enough friends that I decided he should come with me to Christmas for 2 weeks. I just couldn't leave him outside that long at my home by himself, but he's not completely tame, and he's never been in a car or any other house before. But he did really well, and he actually really enjoyed the vacation. But when the day came to leave, I made the stupid mistake of not verifying all the zipper doors were zipped on the cat carrier after successfully getting him in there. He promptly escaped under the bed, and since I can't just shoo him out like a tame cat, I had to leave him there for several weeks. My parents took care of him, and at night he'd come out from under the bed, walk around the house looking for me and the other cats. It was sad. It was like having a piece of my heart missing. And I knew that until I got him home, I couldn't do a mushroom journey. So I was able to get him back, and I got back and was finishing up the last of my harvest, with the 5th flush having only 1 mushroom. The cake was outside at that point since the mycelium was weak, and trick mold had finally set in, but 1 shroom continued to grow, so I let it, and when it was ready, I dried it and included it on the menu for the next trip. The idea was to have a few from the 1st flush, and then that last one from the 5th flush, in kind of a alpha and omega symbolism. The intent was to do under 4 grams because these were new and of unknown potency. Penis envy mushrooms are potent enough as they are, but like anything, it's possible to get an even more potent batch among already potent genetics. The last several trips have been over 4 grams, and I say it every time, but normally I don't do that much. My beneficial dose for many years was around 3.5 grams of penis envies, but for whatever reason, starting last year, the ones that I picked for the night that seemed right always came out over 4 grams. When I weighed out the dose for the night, I had a pang of anxiety and preemptive regret already as the dose came out above 4 grams. In fact, it was 4.34 grams. I sent a picture to Peter and I said, this is going to be really interesting. Last week, I was supposed to trip, but everything felt wrong about doing it. This week, there was a strange calmness to the entire week, and yesterday I had this subdued, almost stoned feeling all day, despite some coffee in the morning. I had an odd buzzing feeling in my face and head, the kind you get when the mushrooms are just starting to take effect, and it lasted the whole day. Several times I had thought to just put it off again for another weekend, maybe I wasn't quite ready. But I was sitting there in the car, waiting for traffic to clear so I could make a left turn when a voice in my head said, and I wonder if this was my mushroom guide because it sounded just like him, "What are you waiting for? The perfect week? The perfect day? The perfect mindset like Obi-Wan Kenobi? We don't need to talk to those kind of people anyway." Now this did not come from me. This is exactly how my guide, Ami, talks. So I have to think that it was a kick in the pants from the other side to hurry up and trip. As he once said, stop whining and just eat the damn mushrooms. So I got home, fed the cats, cleaned up, ate nothing, got my blanket and dosed with some orange juice, several bottles of water. I saged the house and said a prayer. I think I knew deep down, when I said that prayer, what I was in for. Again, I always tell people to be careful with new varieties, and even new batches of the same variety that you're used to. I learned that lesson with the turbo PEs from the upgrade trip given to me by a friend. I was warned to be careful, but I was used to penis envy mushrooms and it was only 4 grams. And that was when the whole upgrade trip event happened, and it was incredibly intense, more so than I bargained for. I tell people that whatever happens, you have to be a good sport about it. and realize that you're the one who ate those mushrooms and you have to take responsibility for it, good, bad, or otherwise. And once you make that decision, you can only ride it out through the night. You will learn something one way or the other. It may not be the experience you were hoping for, but that falls into the realm of expectations. And as we know, those carry no weight in this arena. Intentions are encouraged, but if you have expectations, you'll find yourself often disappointed by an experience that should have been rewarding. So I ate the damn mushrooms, and they were awful. They were ground up to a powder and chased with some orange juice. It was a lot, quite honestly, and at this point, after so many trips, my body just absolutely hates orange juice and the taste of dried shrooms, no matter how finely they're ground up. I was staring at spoonful after heaping spoonful of the stuff, and I heard someone who I'll call the drill sergeant say, "Choke it down, soldier." This was not a me. This was someone else. In fact, they would be the supervisor for the bulk of this trip, which was rough to say the least. It was around 6:30 p.m. when I ate the shrooms, and rather than distract myself during the anxiety of the come-up, I decided to just sit with it and breathe. I had no music playing, and there was only the soft night light or two. It wasn't long before I had that pressing heaviness on me, like the mushrooms were rapidly taking effect in a way that was startling. Once again, my blanket seemed to undulate like a rolling ocean, just like last time. It was my first indication that these were no joke, and realizing that, there was also nothing funny about how much I had just taken either. I laid back and closed my eyes and immediately saw visuals. It was a colorful checkerboard shape, the kind that you often see from the jesters, rolling and twisting itself up into some sort of mechanical tool. The colors and metallic reflections on this multicolored checkerboard were incredibly sharp, like the sharpest high definition imaginable. I could see the light playing on the finely brushed silver metallic surfaces, and the red and yellow checker pattern was undulating and twisting in front of me like a dancer. It was like an audio-visual check, like you see in a movie theater, where they test all the speakers for bass and treble and surround sound, and then they test the digital acuity of the visuals. It was like that. It was like the mushrooms were calibrating themselves in my own brain. My eyes snapped open, and I was stunned for a moment at what I'd just seen so early in the trip. These mushrooms were not joking around. They were like race cars or fighter jets ready to scream off the deck. I blinked to clear my vision and saw the green light of my power outlet strip reflecting on the ceiling. The spot somewhere between the lamp and the ceiling is where my guide for the past several trips seemed to hang out. "Are you here?" I asked. "Yes," I heard. "Well, that's my own thoughts. I don't think you're really here yet," I said. "It's still early," said the voice. I looked at my phone. It was 7:10 p.m. It had only been 40 minutes since I suppressed the last retch and swallowed the final spoonful, and already things were well underway. "Go back again," he said. And I did. I closed my eyes and went deep into that favorite place of mine, where the spaceships are. The intricacy of the machinery is beyond description. Once again, and I mean all of it, was a dark gray-black color. And this place was like a hive of these ships, buzzing and morphing and communicating with one another, while interlocking patterns and parts spun, changed, and breathed with their motion. The geometric interlocking panels had a circuit board-like pattern on them, embedded or etched into the dark gray panels. They were traced once again with glowing lights of pink, blue, purple, orange, and green, and they oscillated their color like a fiber optic lamp. The sounds they were making were very insect-like, and they talked like cicadas in chattering, buzzing vibrations. I know people often hate the sound of cicadas, but growing up where I did, it was the sound of summer, and I felt that the sound was soothing. Whenever I hunted for the source of a particularly large cicada, it was like spotting an alien creature to actually see one and to see how large they really are. So this writhing den of these spaceships was fascinating, and I was just in awe of all of it. I was told on the previous trip that these ships hatch from cocoons, and they really do look very insect-like a lot of the time when viewed from the outside as a whole, but up close, their structure is like an engineering masterpiece of machinery, as complex as the inside of a fine watch, but as large and massive as the biggest battleship you've ever seen. And of course, they're very much alive and aware of everything, including me. So I was amazed, as I always am, at what I was looking at, but as usual, I could stare at them all day and never get bored with it. I just thought, God, this is incredible. It's so beautiful. And a voice from somewhere said, "Open your mouth and shut up. Listen, this is what it means to be in awe." The spaceships were saying something similar. There were these strange praying mantis butterfly creatures with golden wire wings and jewels all at the connecting points on them. Listen, listen. This is how to communicate, they said. We speak in listening. This theme of open your mouth and shut up, listen, was repeated several times to me, probably because I needed to hear it. At one point, I saw bioluminescent mushroom entities. They were actually the mushrooms themselves that I'd grown and now eaten. And I thanked them for everything and for this night, and they thanked me too for the opportunity to be here and to serve this purpose. I felt pretty good at that point. At least I was mutual friends with these shrooms. I hoped that would be the case. After all, they were grown with the best of intentions and cared for meticulously throughout the months. I opened my eyes again. I felt like I'd just driven a Ferrari. Damn, dude, I said to Emmy, who was now clearly in the light energy in the corner. These are some high-performance mushrooms. Yes, they are. Well done. You did a good job with these, he said. Thank you. They're very clean and powerful, aren't they? I said. Yes, they are. I looked at my phone. It was 7:40 p.m. So tonight we are testing the design limit parameters of these high-performance mushrooms, right? I said. Yes, it's only right that you test them first, he said. Go back again. So I closed my eyes. And I was among these strange crustacean-like creatures. Some had faces like ancient turtles with wide noses and wrinkly skin. Others looked like crabs. There was one in particular that was enormous to the point of being funny. I was laughing to myself at the idea of a giant alien space crab, but there it was. It was prehistoric looking, full of layered plates of body armor, and all these creatures were friendly and welcoming despite the fact that I felt really out of place. The turtle people in particular were friendly, and there seemed to be like a male and female couple talking to me and smiling. They said that we were neighbors, and that's exactly what it felt like. It was like meeting this sweet old couple that lives next door. They just happened to be brown and tan speckled turtle people. I surfaced again, and it was 8:12 p.m. The trip seemed to quiet for a moment. There was a calm, peaceful energy all around me on the couch as I sat there looking at the green light from my power strip reflecting on the ceiling. Why do you live in my lamp? I asked him, since it seems like I always looked at the lamp when I talked to him. I'm not in your lamp, he said. That's right, you're on the ceiling somewhere in the energy of the green light, right? I said. I guess it's just easier to look at the lamp. Why are these trips becoming less like Lord of the Rings over time and more philosophical? I asked. There was a time when you needed a certain kind of trip to get the benefits you needed. Now you're evolved into somebody that needs other kinds of experiences, and so these lessons have changed and become more challenging for you. Can I ask you something? I said. Sure, he replied. Who are you? You come back every time we do this. Are you an angel or something? No, he said flatly. I laughed. Okay, so you're not an angel. You're not a heavenly being then. No, well, yes, we all are on some level, but no, I'm not an angel. Were you like me once? I asked. Yes, he said. Well, who did you piss off, and what did you do to get stuck with me? I laughed, pulling the blanket up higher. My body felt like a furnace of heat, yet I still felt cold. You're not my punishment, you're my promotion, he said. Promotion? Shit, well, I'm really sorry about your promotion, man. You got a hell of an assignment. Don't ever be sorry, he said. This is everything I'd ever hoped for. It is? I asked. Good Lord, why? I laughed again. Getting to work with someone like you is extremely rare, and it's one of the most challenging and rewarding things I could ever hope to do, Ami said. Really? Are you gonna get promoted again onto something else one day and just leave me then? No, I wouldn't do that. If anything, you'd get promoted to something else first, he answered. I see. So, someday are we gonna be able to hang out together and laugh about all this? Someday, we will, he said. Then he said, all of this is just a blink, just a breath, me being here, you being here. All of this is just a vapor that appears and disappears. I looked around and I saw co-pilot Cat sitting with one of my other cats by the window. He wanted to go out on the patio, so I unsteadily got up off the couch and made my way to the door. Sorry, hold that thought for a moment. The cat wants to go out, I said to Ami. When I returned to the couch and pulled the blanket up again, I drank some more water and returned my attention to my guide. You see, he said, all of this is only here for a moment, and then it's done. Make the most of the time you have here to learn, because it's such a short time, and it's all over so fast. At this point, I had tears rolling down my face. Do we have past lives? I asked. Like, have we lived before in this place? No, but yes, in a way, sort of. Nothing is yes or no, it's both and neither, he tried to explain. I said, like neither here nor there yet both at once, I said, quoting my own book. What about my book? Since the last time we spoke, it's still getting one rejection after another. What am I supposed to do now? The people you're submitting it to aren't even looking at it. They have their specific wants and needs for their agenda, and that's all they're really looking for. But don't be discouraged. We gave you the inspiration for that book, and we'll make a way where there was no way, by the power of your heart's intentions, he said, quoting another line from the book. We aren't going to leave you after bringing you this far, not on this trip, and not in life. These trips are like living a life in one night with all of its triumphs and failures, all of its lessons and learning. Can I ask you an existential question? I asked. Of course. Well, since it's February, I have a question about love. Since last time you said there are many different frequencies of love, and that commercial romantic love is actually a very low frequency variety, it seems that humans and animals and everything really needs some kind of love. Even the mushrooms I grew would not have thrived without it. So my question is it possible to deactivate this need for love? And if so, what would happen if someone could? Love is the source code, Ami said. Everything that is built upon the source code of love. And if you don't have that, then nothing can exist or be built at all. Remember, he said, light does not dispel the darkness. Love does. Light dispels visual darkness in a thin slice of a vast spectrum of frequencies. But you've seen darkness that is more than just the lack of physical light. The allegorical light that dispels darkness is love at its source, and no darkness can withstand it. I was silent at the profundity of all that meant, trying to process it all, but feeling the pull of the next phase of this journey approaching. I turned my phone off at some point and struggled to get it to turn on to check the time. What's wrong with this thing? I said, recalling when my phone was deactivated during the upgrade trip. There's nothing wrong with your phone but you, Ami joked, as it finally turned on and I saw the Apple boot up screen. I laughed, feeling silly, and checked the time after struggling to unlock it. It was 9:21 p.m. I need to tell you something, I said. I meant to tell you this last time, but I got busy. But I've been thinking about you a lot and the things you've said, and trying to make sure I remember to say this to you. I want to thank you for being here with me on these past several trips and putting up with my crap. I'm grateful for your guidance and to know that you don't see this as an annoyance, having to endure all this with me. You're the best guide anyone could ask for, and I love you very much. Tell your boss that. I love you too, Starpilot. And how about you tell my boss that, he said. So I glanced outside at the outline of the rooftops and the trees and said, just so you know, this guy's awesome. Please don't promote him though again, I laughed. It felt like it was time to go lay down and get ready for bed. I felt a bit nauseous just then, wondering how once again that could be if I ate the mushrooms 3 whole hours ago. Whatever you do, don't burp, Ami said. It's a trap. I know, I'll do my best, but I can't promise anything after last time, I said. Good luck, and remember, you're not alone. I made my way to the bedroom, and this time I had the common sense to take out my contacts before the trip, unlike last time, when I discovered trying to take out contacts out of one's eyes while tripping is a challenge indeed. I was starting to feel bad, but I convinced myself that lying down would solve the problem. I think at a certain point, at a certain volume of mushrooms, if taken whole, powdered, capsulated, anyway, except tea really, there's a certain biological point where your body just can't do it. Our bodies are adept at being veritable garbage disposals, and they can process a lot of crap without much problem. But something about mushrooms above a certain amount just overloads the digestion, I think. Add in the fact that orange juice is like battery acid in your stomach, and it isn't a surprise that nausea is common. I've had it occasionally, but nothing like these past 2 trips. So the minute I got in bed, I was miserable physically. My stomach hurt, I was fighting waves of nausea, and my stomach felt like I had balloon animals running through my guts. Feeling sick is bad enough on its own, but while under the effects of psychedelics, it's a whole nother ballgame. Now, I know that vomiting is a normal part of the ayahuasca ceremonies, and it's expected as part of the experience. It doesn't mean anything's wrong with you, just that your body's rejecting whatever it is as undigestible and getting rid of it. But by the time this happens, you've absorbed a lot of the important stuff into your system already. So I tried to tough it out. I really did. But I realized there's a point at which mind over matter fails when you're a human living in a physical plane. So without too much detail, I'll just say I was sicker than I've ever been in my life, and there was not one damn thing I could do about it. My coach, or drill sergeant, whoever the guide was, at this point during the trip said, "You're fine. Nothing's wrong with you. This is just what happens. Get over it." Honestly, I missed Ami. I wondered why he wasn't there on this part. He was still in the other room up by the green light reflecting on the ceiling. On the last trip, his voice came in and out of my thoughts as I was being flushed down the psychedelic wood chipper for hours, it seemed. But this time, it was just this drill sergeant coach. It was bad. Like, put the lights on, the trip felt like it stopped kind of bad. Because I felt horrible. I was parched, but I couldn't drink water without the nausea returning. And all the while being bombarded by more images and visuals that were overwhelming. This is not a bad trip, I said, trying to convince myself of what I said last time, in that there are no bad trips. This is just the shit that happens. And you asked for it, the drill sergeant said. There's no bad trips, there's just bad analysis of them. Yes, I did ask for it, and I take full responsibility for the war zone that is now my bedroom, I said. The cats were scared to come in, and occasionally I'd hear a concerned yowl from somewhere in the living room. What have you learned so far? He asked. Humility for one thing, I said aloud. Respect for the process, although I didn't think I came in here without either of those things, did I? No, he said, you had humility and respect, but there's no such thing as having too much of either. Was I disrespectful in the dose? I asked. Not really, he said, but maybe you should take your own advice and be careful when trying out new batches of the same kind. I know, I said, I'm great at not taking my own advice. I just really wanted to test these out, you know? The violent nausea began to subside. I looked at my phone and it was 9:51 p.m. Half an hour had passed, but it felt like ages. I was only a little over 3 hours in also. Normally these trips are 8 to 9 hours, which would make it done around 2 a.m. I prayed it wouldn't go that long, but I knew there was nothing I could do. It was like being a huge ship on a violent ocean with impossible waves crashing down and threatening to rip me apart at the seams. I remember on previous trips with the spaceships I was told the ship is the pilot, and the pilot is the ship. And I suppose that was something I needed to realize before a night like tonight, when I, myself, was both like the ship and the captain, fighting through a supernatural psychedelic storm. Wave after disorienting wave pummeled me with maddening patterns and colors and sounds, and it was all I could do to keep myself upright. Now, a lot of people have a lot of negative things to say about the ego, touting the benefits of ego death and losing your ego. I'll tell you that without the ego, one could never navigate through anything like that, because the ego is like the keel of the ship that runs down the center line of the hull. You can remove it, but then the ship comes apart and is one with the ocean in an absolute way. But with the keel, there's a grounding and a spine that holds the sides together and gives it stability. While an out-of-balance ego can get in its own way, a healthy ego serves as an important centering force, not something to be eradicated. It's there to right us when the seas are high and the darkest night is crashing down on us. Holding on to what we are at our core is what keeps you going through it, instead of losing yourself to the waves with no direction. What do you think about all this? The drill sergeant said, as he'd said several times during the night. I think he just said it to check up on me and make sure I was still on course. I laid there in a pool of sweat, a pool of cold sweat, in the middle of utter chaos, and spread my arms out and said, I'm fine with all this. I'm cool with it. I'm having the time of my life, in fact. I wasn't really serious. Well, sort of. This isn't fun, I said, but it isn't supposed to be. That's right, the drill sergeant said. This is supposed to be hard. You wanted to test the design limits of these high-performance mushrooms, and they had the same idea about you. This is where we see if the ship can weather the storm. And I said, this is the storm the designer had in mind when they built this ship. This is the storm I've been waiting for. That was an epic line, wasn't it? But it didn't get any easier at all, for a while. I closed my eyes and dove back under the surface into the colorful network of lights and patterns. If love is the source code, then it's the source code of this storm also, I said. That's right, said a voice, though I'm not sure exactly who it was, but it wasn't the drill sergeant or me. Well, what is it, though? Love. What exactly is it? If you were to physically identify it and isolate and dissect it, what's in there? We were moving through pink and red tunnels, almost like body tissue and veins, into some kind of white, fibrous, spinal cord-looking thing with a small tear in the outer tissue. Is that where it is? What's in there? I asked. Do you really want to see? Said the voice. Yes, I want to see what it's made of. I want to know what's in there. Come what may, I don't care. Every last one of my fucks has flown the coop tonight. I want to know what the source code is. We got to the final layer of tissue, and it was a deep blood red. Stop, said the voice. No one can look upon the face of God and live. Ah, I said, understood, and I backed away. The source code of love is God, and that's why you can't extract it from anything. It's what's behind the veil that we can't look upon in life, but yet we know it's there. Any curiosity about what it looks like is not meant for this life. In fact, the drill sergeant said, that question of yours you had earlier is probably the most offensive question in creation that you could ask or suggest. But it was a legitimate question nonetheless. This trip was your journey to the answer. I felt the storm begin to subside, both within me and all around me. Breathe, I heard a voice say. You need to remember to breathe through this. That was Ami, my guide, saying that from somewhere. Remember why you gave me that name? He asked. Because it means friend, I said. Yes, and what's the root of that word? All I knew from French, Spanish, and the years of Latin I'd taken in school at the root of the word ami was amor, or amare. Love is the source, even in the name you gave me, he said. And I bawled my freaking eyes out. You need to keep breathing, someone said. So I breathed, and I finally felt the waves dampening. The chaotic, electronic music in my head that played non-stop began to fade, and I saw an image of a calming sea, with the gray clouds beginning to wane and the yellow light of morning shining through. We made it, I said. You did. This ship has proven itself strong and seaworthy in the worst of storms. There's no storm that you can't survive, the drill sergeant said. This phase of learning for you is complete. You won't have to take this level again for a while. There are other things to learn that are not so difficult. I sighed in relief that this year-long, high-dose phase was finished. I cracked a weary smile. So, did I earn my captain stripes tonight then? I asked. Yes, you did. Now don't let it go to your head, the drill sergeant said. I was exhausted, physically, emotionally, and mentally. I rolled over to find somewhere on the bed that wasn't cold and wet, and drank some more water. I checked the time. It was 3 a.m. As the last of the waves were becoming a mirror on the sea, he said, Remember, this calm sea is the same sea you battled before. The difference is in the energy. It is neither your friend nor your enemy. It just is. The sea of energy in your world and all others acts in the same way. You have everything you need to navigate through any challenge. As I faded to sleep, a song played in my head that I haven't heard in many, many years. The song is The River, sung by Garth Brooks. And while I identified with that song as it related to life once when I was a teenager, after last night, it means something much more. It goes like this. You know, a dream is like a river, ever changing as it flows, and the dreamer's just a vessel that must follow where it goes, trying to learn from what's behind you, and never knowing what's in store, makes each day a constant battle, just to stay between the shores. Too many times we stand aside and let the waters slip away, till what we've put off till tomorrow has now become today. But don't you sit upon the shoreline and say you're satisfied. Choose to chance the rapids and dare to dance the tide. And there's bound to be rough waters, and I know I'll take some falls, but with the good Lord as my captain, I can make it through them all. And I will sail my vessel until the river runs dry. Like a bird upon the wind, these waters are my sky. I'll never reach my destination if I never try, so I will sail my vessel till the river runs dry. Thank you for coming with me on this journey. If you'd like to contact me, my email is in the video description, starpilot33@protonmail.com, and I look forward to hearing from you. Until next time, travel safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you on the other side.